Hello, everybody. Welcome to this very first episode of our new webinar series, What Virtual Space Are You Building for Your Business? I'm your host, Stefan, and I'm here today with my colleague, Phoebe, and you can speak to Phoebe via the chat on the right-hand side of your screen. Please let her know if you can hear me and if you can see me. Very important for today's talk. You can also ask her any questions throughout today's webinar. So please feel free to just put them in the chat, and then she'll make sure that they'll come to me till the at the end of the talk for the live Q&A. So yeah, feel free to let her know. Yeah, just making sure that Phoebe is also saying hi there. Great. So as I said, this is a four-part webinar series where we are doing an episode every single week for the coming 4 weeks, and each episode is focused on a different industry. In today's episode, we're going to talk about how to build a virtual museum in the METAmakeR, one of our platforms. So a really exciting one, and this is today's talk basically consists of 3 parts. So number one, I want to talk to you a little bit about what to think about when you're building a virtual museum, because there are a couple of questions that you should ask yourself before starting to build something, and it's important to go through them. Then I'll start sharing my screen afterwards, and I'll walk you through one of the most famous museums in the world, a demo for one of the most famous museums in the world, a really cool one. And at the same time, I want to give you some tips to create the most immersive experience. So I will look to my right every once in a while just to make sure that you can still see and hear me. If I start sharing my screen a little later on, I will not be able to see the chat, so it's important that nothing goes wrong there. Please let Phoebe know if the audio and video is good. I'm assuming that if you don't say anything, that you can hear me okay. So let's dive right in. Now, I think that all of you have probably visited or seen some sort of some version of a virtual museum or a virtual gallery online. Now, there are, and some are cool, some are, maybe could be improved a little bit. But overall, I think one of the main questions that you should be asking yourself when you're trying to build something like that is, what is your objective? What are you trying to achieve when you're building this? Because obviously, if you don't know, then your viewers or visitors also don't know. And I think probably for a lot of museums and galleries that have built something like this, maybe they've forgotten this question altogether. So it's an important thing, right? Do you want to do this because you want to drive more foot traffic to your physical museum? Do you want to do this to generate a new revenue stream? Which, yes, is possible. I can tell you a little bit about that later. Do you want to enable people that will not be able to physically go to the museum to actually let them visit the space or the virtual version and offer live tours, like live guided tours hosted by your actual guides in the museum? Like, all of these things are possible, and they impact on what you're trying. They will have an impact on what you're trying to build virtually. Okay. Then number 2 is when you're building a virtual museum, do you want to create an exact replica of your physical space? Obviously possible. You could, there are 2 ways of doing that. You can either capture it using a 360 camera and basically build a digital twin, or you can, build it in 3D and build an exact replica of what you're trying to, or of your physical space. But there are also other things that you can do, especially virtually. The possibilities are limitless. You can do all kinds of creative things, and I'll talk a little bit about that later on, also when we talk about what you could potentially do. So definitely a question that you can ask yourself. Number 3. Now, who is actually going to visit this virtual museum? So probably the people that are interested in this type of stuff are people that actually go to museums or maybe have already been there. Now, if you've already been there in the first place, for me, the reason to go and visit your virtual museum is to learn something new. I want to see something that is different from the actual museum that I've, for example, already been to or planning to go to. And virtually, you can actually do a lot of that stuff, and really, really cool and interesting things. And I hope to show you some of that today. So important to take into consideration. Number 4, I have 5 of these points, by the way. Number 4 is the attention span. Obviously, virtually and digitally speaking online, attention span is so short, and trying to keep engagement in an actual museum is, virtual museum is difficult to do. In a physical, museum, you can easily spend the morning and afternoon, a whole day sometimes. The museum that I'm going to show you today, that physical museum is so big, you can easily spend an entire day. Virtually, that will be very different, right? So are you building something that would last for 10 minutes, for 30 minutes? Again, all has an impact, something to think about. And number 5 kind of ties into number 4, which is fatigue, tiredness. People, if they see the same thing over and over again in a large space, they get tired online and maybe even get a little bored, and you want to avoid that. So we want to keep that engagement going, which means that we need a large variety of different things that we want to add into the museum, especially if you have multiple spaces. And there are different things that you can do there as well. So these are sort of the 5 things that are good starting points or starting questions to ask yourself when you're actually building a virtual museum. Now, I want to start sharing my screen, and I'm going to walk you through a great sample that we built, basically a tribute, and it's the Rijksmuseum in the Netherlands, based in Amsterdam. I think a very famous museum. It's the National Museum of the Netherlands. If you haven't actually been there, I would highly recommend to go. If you get a chance, it's wonderful. It's also enormous, and what we built is a little tribute. It's a small version of that actual museum. So I want to use that to walk you through some tips and some tricks and things that you can do. So give me a sec, and I'll start sharing my screen. All right. Feel free to ask me any questions, by the way, if you have any. All right. Cool. All right. So I cannot see the chat right now, so I'm just checking. I'm assuming that you can all still hear me, that the audio is still okay. All right. Perfect. So this is the museum that I'm talking about. Obviously, you can't see much right now because the first thing that you see is sort of a welcome, an introduction slide, or this could potentially also be a video. And it is something that is easy to forget, but really important. Because in this intro, it's your opportunity to give people a warm welcome, to introduce the museum maybe, and even, give people ways of navigating, because this is virtual. People are not that used to it yet. How do I go through it? What do I see? What can I click on? What should I click on for more information? And this is your way to do that, using that, either an image or a video in this way. So what we've done here is on the left is a welcome, an intro of the actual Rijksmuseum, with in the background an actual image of the physical museum, and on the right, how to navigate. So the icons that you see, the info icons, ways of actually showing or seeing a 3D model, moving through the museum. All important. So a really great first step to make sure that the people that are joining your virtual experience get the best experience, essentially. Okay. Now, this is the museum, and you can already see tons of stuff. You can see the entire space basically from here, from the entrance. And the first thing that you should be thinking about is the actual space. So what we're seeing here is a 3D model, all right, a 3D built space. And we've got tons of templates. We have a platform called MarketSpace, where you can have tons of templates that we have hundreds available. Lots of them are for galleries and museums that you could choose from, but you can also upload your own. And this goes back to what I said earlier. Why should it be an exact replica of the physical space? Now, we kind of built something similar because this is a tribute to the Rijksmuseum. So we knew we wanted to do that. So the vibe, the feel, the colors are similar to what you would see if you actually go to the real museum. But there's nothing stopping you from actually, for example, if you have Rembrandt, one of his paintings, why should it be displayed in an actual physical or an actual space like this? Why couldn't it be showcased in the house that he painted it in, or the city that he painted it in? You could literally let your imagination run wild. To build that. So again, what are you trying to achieve, and what can you then do? What are you showcasing? So you don't necessarily have to showcase it in this space, even though we did it this way right now. Okay, then the second thing, or the third thing, is essentially that you see tons of stuff. The reason why this looks so real is that it's not just 2D paintings. You can also see, and we'll get closer in a minute, you can see 3D models. So you can see sculptures and lamps and all kinds of stuff in 3D that is there already. And we've got, if we move here, we've got all of the stuff, the audio icons. If it moves a little slow on your screen, by the way, that simply has to do that we're using a webinar software and sharing my screen at the same time. So give it a little while, and I'll make sure that Phoebe sends this out later on so that you can actually explore it yourself as well. So everything is basically available, and that also gives it a ton of variety, right? Here we got as I said, info, audio, even the possibility to learn more about the actual painter or the artist, by clicking on the name. So I'll just click on the info icon to show you what that looks like. Take a little bit of time to load the image. So more information about the painting, which this is the standard stuff that you would add in a museum, with artworks. You want to add this stuff in there. But besides that, right, there are all, and then obviously the 3D models, which make this quite a bit different. We'll get a bit closer in a minute. But besides that, and I'll move a little bit more to the middle right here, we're also seeing all kinds of other stuff here. So this particular wall that we're looking at right now is kind of focused on Johannes Vermeer. And besides two of his most famous paintings, we've also got, we got some text. On the right side, we have sort of highlighted different things within one of his most famous, or probably his most famous painting, The Milkmaid. You have a banner. Virtually speaking, you can do all of this stuff really, really easily. And in the real world, sometimes is a little bit more difficult to do. I want to learn more information. I want to learn something new. These are ways of actually doing that, right? If I click on Find Out here, it would send me to a video that, tells me more about Johannes Vermeer and what, in general, other than just looking at his artworks. So I'm just moving a little forward here. Here on the side, for example, we're highlighting different parts of the painting of the milkmaid. And if I click on the image, it actually, shows in very close-up detail, what we're talking about of that particular painting. Again, a very engaging way, and always good, at least for me personally. When I go to a museum, this is the stuff that I want to know. This is the stuff that I want to see, other than just looking at beautiful pieces of art. Okay, great. Now another thing, and I'll move a little closer. I'll go here. Here we go. So again, here, this is one of the examples, or one of the sculptures that we've got. We have about 5 in this virtual museum. And just because it's a 3D model here, it makes it look really real, right? It suddenly gives a whole new dimension to the museum. So other than just having the paintings, because this is an actual real 3D model that we've uploaded in this space, I'm actually able to walk around it as well, right? If I walk around it, I don't actually look at the back of an image. I actually look at the back of this particular sculpture because it's a 3D model. So something that is really, adds tons of value to the experience that you're trying to build. I can imagine, one of your questions might be, I don't have the 3D models. Well, there are, actually our team is capable of helping you with that, or building you, or if you don't have the right file, we can actually transfer that into the right file so that you're actually able to use it. So something that is really sweet. And if I move a little bit further here to the middle, you'll also see that besides the actual 3D model, we've also got on all of these sculptures, we have a little 3D icon that you can see here. And then when I click on that, right, it opens a new window where I can actually see the 3D model and turn it around and zoom in and actually highlight, see a little bit more information about that sculpture. So it's not just me walking around the actual sculpture, it's me being able to turn it around and zoom in using a different platform that we got, the AR Maker. So this is a platform that enables you to actually host 3D models, and combining your experience that you're building in the METAmakeR with the AR Maker is absolutely fantastic. So it took a little while to load. So you can see I can turn this all around. If it's a little bit vague on your screen, don't worry. Again, it just has to do with the screen sharing. And if I click on, here we go. If I click on number 1, 2, 3, I have these little pop-up windows that tell me more information specifically on different parts of the sculpture. So, this is the type of, engaging stuff that we're talking about here. And if you have multiple spaces, for example, you can have one that is dedicated to, basically just paintings, and another that is dedicated to, sculptures, just to keep that sort of excitement, what is coming next, to keep that going, essentially. So yeah, a really, really cool way of displaying artworks here. All right, now I'm moving a little bit forward, and I've already talked to you a little bit about the virtual opportunities that you can create, but here, one of the things here is actually a video. So we've displayed a video on the floor, which is not a very normal place generally, in the real world to display a video. But here, this is not weird, right? So again, be a little bit creative with, the location of certain items or icons or things that you want to display. And again, a video here is just a really cool thing that actually talks about something fun related to this painting, which is obviously the focal point of this virtual museum. Okay, so a couple of tips that I want to highlight. Number one is obviously the combination, to build the most immersive experience. Number one is the combination of 2D and 3D. So the sculptures, the 3D models, and the 2D actually make for a very immersive experience. Number two, I already just showed you that the AR Maker, so hosting the 3D models, adding more information, and then using that for people to actually getting closer to an artwork. Other than just being able to walk around, I can then turn it around myself as well. Something that is really cool if you have access. Number three is the size and look and the position. So I already talked about the position here of particular tags, videos, for example. But size is also a really important thing. Here we're looking at the Night Watch, Rembrandt's most famous painting, probably. And if you look at it in real life, it actually is enormous. So this probably reflects that quite well. But virtually, you can make anything as big or as small as you want. So that also gives you a lot of flexibility. I understand that if you have, a little artwork, you don't want to maybe make that enormous. On the other hand, why not? If you want to highlight something specific, why not make that bigger? These are the things that you can do virtually. So why not take advantage of it? Okay. Then, the audio tour. So, make sure these are kind of the standard things that are expected in a virtual museum. The info icons and the audio icons here, so that someone can have essentially a guided tour themselves. It just provides some flexibility for the viewers. All right, and the last thing, and I haven't talked about this at all so far yet, and I can imagine that this is quite forward thinking. Well, not many, if any, museum is doing this at the moment, but actual live guided tours using avatars. A couple of weeks ago, we did a ice staging talk where we talked about using avatars with the METAmakeR, which is now an available functionality. Imagine in a museum or a gallery, if you offer that online as an actual option, so people can virtually book a guided tour, and you would be able to see each other's avatars. The guide can essentially walk you through the museum and talk about it as if you're doing this similar to the physical world, but now you can do it with people literally from all over the world that might not be able to do this physically. And even though this is not probably a real thing that people do now, I do believe with technology advancing and people understanding and recognizing that this is possible now, it definitely can become a thing in the future. If you want to know more about avatars, because I'm not showing that today, I would highlight, or I would recommend to go back to our YouTube channel and look at the last webinar, which is the social functions in the METAmakeR, where we talk about avatars. And while you're there, why not hit the subscribe button if you haven't already subscribed too. Okay, yes. So Phoebe will send this out as soon as I stop sharing my screen. She will send the link out, and you can actually explore this yourself as well. Last thing that I want to show in here is the possibility actually also to search for artworks. So here you see all of the paintings. If I want to know something about a specific painting, and especially this is valuable if I'm in a really big virtual space that is maybe 3, 4, 5 times the size of what I'm showing you today. And when you click on it, it will actually transport you. Besides giving you the information immediately, it would also transport you to that particular location. So instead of having to walk through all the way there, you can basically transport yourself there instantly. All right. So very cool. All right, I know I'm going a little bit over time here, but there's one more thing, or two tiny little things that I want to show you in the editor that are important that you need to know when you're building a virtual museum. All right, and I've already prepared some of this, so I hope that it kind of, if it doesn't go, we'll move up a little bit. So we are in the editor. Again, we have tutorial videos about this. On YouTube and all kinds of videos and webinars that talk more about this. But there are two things. Number one, a little bit about the size. So I want to just give you, that option. If I want to adjust the size of an actual artwork, which is possible, I would click on the number 2 on my keyboard, and then essentially here I can make this as big or as small as I want, just to play around, with the size of a particular artwork. I can imagine that this is probably way too big, or not, but just to show you what you can do and how easy it is to make something bigger. And it doesn't really do anything related to the quality, right? It's still as sharp and as beautiful, essentially, as the real size, essentially, that was displayed in the museum. So just a quick, for you guys to visualize. And the last thing that I want to show, and I'll move a little bit further to the painting here, is we have all these pop-up windows, right? The info icons, and if you click on the painter or the artist, more information with the pop-up window. But I don't want everything to be a pop-up window. Some things just, for example, the paintings, I just want it to be a painting. I don't want it to be clickable. All right. So what I want to do then to make that happen is actually quite simple. Once you've uploaded it, once you've put it into in your virtual space, I highlight it. It will open that particular tag on the right side, in the menu on the right side. I can scroll all the way down and then click on unclickable here. Select unclickable, and that ultimately then makes sure that particular painting is not clickable and it's just in the museum. All right. Also, experience-wise, it's just a little bit better. So a small thing that is important to know and easily overlooked. All right, very good. Now I'm gonna go and stop sharing my screen. Great. And I would love to see if there are any questions that I can answer for you guys. So I know that I put a lot of stuff in 25 minutes. Oh, here, Phoebe already just sent out the demo virtual museum of the Rijksmuseum with the link, so feel free to go and check it out yourself. We'll probably also put it up on social media, or send it out in an email at some point. But you guys can get the first look there. Yeah. So just for you guys to let you guys know, even though this, for some of you, if you are familiar with this type of stuff already, maybe it doesn't look so complicated, but if you are not so familiar, then this could look a little daunting, but it's not. You can actually do this really quickly. I want to say it takes a little bit of time, definitely, to build it, but you can learn it really, really quickly I am definitely not, I don't really consider myself a very techie person, but I've been able to figure it out. So I'm 100% sure that I can teach you guys as well. And it's quite intuitive with instructions too. Other thing, costs, something that you probably are thinking about. Okay, if I want to build this, is this going to cost me a fortune? It is not. So if you go to our website icestaging.com, and what I showed you today was built in the METAmakeR. So you would go to pricing and select METAmakeR. You would see the pricing packages there, and you can actually get started today. Pick a template and get it going. It's as easy as that. All right, I thought someone was typing, but I guess not. So yeah, if there are no questions, and I hope that you enjoyed today, that you learned something new, that you saw something new. I hope that with the screen sharing, that it was okay, that it wasn't too laggy in a way. Before I go, one thing that I want to mention: the next talk will be next Thursday, same time, and it will be focused on real estate, and we'll be showing you something extremely cool. All right, how to basically virtually stage a property, but not in the way that you might think, not in the way that you may have seen it before. It's quite a very cool solution that we're going to be offering, that is going to be available to you guys. So if you are in the real estate industry, you're interested in learning a bit more about that, I would 100% recommend to go and join us next week. If you haven't signed up yet, if you've signed up for the entire course, you'll receive your confirmation for the registration very soon. If not, I would highly recommend that you go and sign up for that as well via the website. All right, I think that's about it. I do see someone typing, but if I miss your question, or you want to ask me a question, or any one of my colleagues, go just reach out or send us an email at hello@icestaging.com, or with the little chat widget in the bottom right corner of our website, you can reach out and we'll get in touch as soon as possible. So I want to thank you all very, very much for joining me today, for giving us half an hour of your valuable time. I genuinely hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you next week at the next one. So see you in episode 2, and have a wonderful rest of the week. Thanks a lot. Cheers.